Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, again, this isn't the left values quiz. I've made it kind of official that it would be next week that I do that. Because this week, pretty much kind of, even though I knew it was happening out of the blue, the 2020 Democratic debate kind of came around, and I'm like, oh yeah, now I gotta cover this thing. But anyways, I'm gonna get to that when I get to that. But first, let's get right into the news. I'm actually gonna cover a story that came out again the day after I recorded the last episode. Mark Sanford says that he's launching a primary challenge against Trump. Former South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford will launch a long-shot primary challenge for the 2020 Republican nomination, he announced Sunday, giving President Trump another challenger as he runs for re-election. I had planned to announce this back home this week. We had a hurricane come visit us on the coast of South Carolina, so that sort of disrupted the plans. But anyways, Sanford is not the candidate that I really want. Like, again, I don't really think any primary challenge against Trump is gonna work in any sense of the word. And Sanford, kind of like a Wall, she seems kind of politically irrelevant. Like, he's not currently elected official. I don't think he's been in office for a while, so I think it's weird to see this guy show up and be like, hey, I'm gonna run against President Trump. And again, he seems to be kind of running as, not in the sense of like trying to run to a libertarian base, even though he is, like the other two, trying to appeal to the libertarian base in a sense. Maybe with some of their other policies, like, taxes or something along those lines. But I mean, he just again seems to be running as like, oh, we need to stop Trump because Trump says bad language and blah, blah, blah. And I really don't think that he's gonna get that far, to be honest. I'm currently polling my audience to see if they think any of these primary challenges are gonna go anywhere. And Sanford is in second place so far, so it appears that he's at least doing decent enough. And I mean, again, I highly doubt I'm gonna get any Republican voters in these polls, so I'm not really gauging the actual base of the party, but, it's a decent enough way to see if he's doing well. Speaking of the Republican primaries, we've been hearing a lot about the Democratic debates. Let's hear about the GOP debates. Because even though many state parties and early states have decided they've officially canceled their primary process, it's not at all going to stop the idea of people running and holding debates for these candidates. Because on September 24th, we're going to get the official first. And if you guys want me to, I'll break that down if you want. Even though, unfortunately, the big man in orange himself will not be there. Trump has officially announced that I don't think he's officially announced that he's not going to be at the debate. But it's not really likely that he's gonna go, because he doesn't consider these guys, he considers these guys like, I forget what his nickname for them. Hold on, let me look it up. Like, he's called these three the Three Stooges because, I mean, I guess they're really good at comedy. Because, I mean, otherwise, these three just have the whole idea of running primary challenges. I'll probably cover the 2020 Republican debate because I think it's decent enough to bring up. Anyways, the next story comes from the Democratic side. Tom Steyer officially qualifies for the October debate. Unfortunately, it turns out that he somehow managed to make the cut. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why out of all of the polls that could have had Tulsi in them, they just said, no, I think Steyer made the cut. I mean, really, it's just kind of boring to think of that. Like, I kind of find it strange that people just throw that away. They're just like, no, it was fair. Tulsi being removed from the debate was fair. I mean, yes, she made 2% in 26 polls, but only 2 of them counted. Those are the rules. I mean, those are the rules. I don't see why you're complaining. Those are the rules. And the thing is, it has happened again. Because there's a new poll that originally had Tulsi at 2%, which made everyone go, oh my goodness, Tulsi has 2% in another poll. All she needs is one more poll to go. Turns out, that poll, it's sponsored by 2 pollsters that are counted as real pollsters, according to the DNC. But it just so happens that each of the pollsters has 2 different criteria. ABC says they poll all adults, whereas the Washington Post polls only registered Democrats. So when they polled the all adults, Tulsi didn't do so hot, because all adults equals people who are not going to be voting in the Democratic primary. Whereas in the Democratic primary one, they have stated there is no, like, she has 2% because in a party that is actually going to be possibly voting for Tulsi, surprisingly, you're going to hear the Tulsi voters a lot more loud. And a lot of people have stated that they have received confirmation from the DNC that the DNC will be only counting the ABC version of the poll, which has Tulsi at 1%, rather than the one that has her at 2%. The thing is, nobody really seems to know if that's true, because the DNC themselves have not actually clarified. So it is currently being questioned on whether or not Tulsi has only 1 poll left to go or 2. I'm not holding my breath on the whole, oh no, Tulsi's gonna do well. She's got 1 poll to go, because the DNC is just clearly going to throw this away in the garbage. Just be like, no, we accept the ABC version. Yeah, that's more than likely. So anyways, on a lighter news story, John Bolton is fired. President Donald Trump abruptly announced in a tweet Tuesday that he had asked National Security Advisor John Bolton to resign, noting that he strongly disagreed with many of Bolton's suggestions, as did many others in the administration. I thank John for his service, and I will be naming a new National Security Advisor next week. The tweet came off just 1 hour after the White House press office said Bolton was scheduled to appear in Tuesday's press briefing alongside Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. Asked during the briefing whether he and Mnuchin were surprised that Bolton was fired, given that he was supposed to appear alongside him, Pompeo said, "I'm never surprised." Now, the thing is, I'm 100% on board with this. John Bolton is a little bit before my time, but all I really need to know about him is that he's a war hawk and good riddance. Now, technically, some of the blue, no matter who type Democrats, they've always been like, oh, Bolton being fired after the Trump announced that he wasn't going to be dealing with the Taliban seems suspicious. It seemed a little weird. Seems like he was putting himself in the firing zone. It's like, I mean, I actually made a tweet to Nancy Pelosi when she was saying Bolton being fired is definitely a suspicious act and is really wrong and terrible. You shouldn't have done that. I'm like, no, this is the correct response, and then linked a Jeff Merkley tweet and a Elizabeth Warren tweet saying Bolton shouldn't have been hired in the first place. There's no way that he should have been allowed to be anywhere near the presidency. But anyways, the same thing with Dick Cheney. There's no way this man, this insane buffoon, this insane calculating evil person, there's no way he should have been this close to possibly being the president. To his credit, neither should have Hillary Clinton or Joe Lieberman or any of these folks. None of them should have been anywhere close to being president, or these guys were all one step away from being president. And there's no way they should have been even close. But anyways, the next story, Trump administration plans to ban sale of flavored electronic cigarettes. The Trump administration said Wednesday that it plans to ban the sale of non-tobacco flavored electronic cigarettes amid a vaping crisis. The Trump administration is making it clear that we intend to clear the market of flavored e-cigarettes to reverse the deeply concerning epidemic of youth e-cigarette use impacting children, families, schools, and communities. We will not stand idly by as these products become an on-ramp to combustible cigarettes or nicotine addiction for the generation of youth. Now, the thing is, some people have been cheering for this. Some people have been happy with this because they don't like vaping. Either because they don't like just vaping in general, or they have a moral outrage to vaping. Oh, you shouldn't be smoking. But here's the thing. I take a very libertarian stand on this. If you want to vape, if you want to slowly poison yourself, go right ahead. Use whatever illicit substance you want. Use weed, use LSD, use crack, use shrooms, whatever. I don't care. Just do whatever the heck you want. I don't care. Now the thing is, this is wrong. I don't think he should be doing this. But many people have pointed out why he's more than likely doing it. You see, big tobacco and big pharma, they pretty much own all politicians. Guess what's hurting their businesses? These more safer and illicit drugs and e-cigarettes. If they're buying vapes, they're not buying real cigarettes. Ergo, it's more than likely that it's just because big tobacco is no, if they're gonna die of nicotine poisoning, they gotta do it with our product. Now the thing is, a more logical capitalist point of view would be, why don't you just broaden your market? But this is also a very likely thing. Just crush your competition. The idea is you're supposed to absorb your competition, not just crush them. The thing is, it's weird that I'm trying to just say, to big companies, no, you're doing capitalism wrong. You're supposed to do it this way. It's stupid that I have to be the one to try to explain capitalism to a multi-million-dollar corporation. But anyways, this next story is kind of a continuation of two sagas that are happening in the 2020 election. The saga of Mike Gravel and the teens, and Howie Hawkins of the Green Party. Now, I think I covered it last time around, but for those who don't remember, pretty much the Mike Gravel campaign sent an email to supporters asking people to donate to the Howie Hawkins campaign for president. Now, many people were questioning, because Mike Gravel was endorsing Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. Why is he asking people to donate to Howie Hawkins? And I brought this up to the Mike Gravel Twitter account. It seems a little weird. And they were sending me messages like, "Lol, we can give you his number if you're so concerned." But the thing is, it was weird because it just doesn't seem like Gravel was very concerned. Like, especially considering there was a clear divide with Gravel and the teenagers. You see, Mike Gravel was very open prior to his dropping out on interviews with Nika House and other candidates, not other candidates, like other lefty forums, that he really wanted to support the Tulsi Gabbard campaign, but also was like, yeah, I also really like Bernie. But he was giving it strong indication that he was going to be supporting Bernie and Tulsi. But then, when the time came, he made a full video support endorsement of Bernie Sanders, highly edited, highly produced. And for Tulsi, he just clarified that in like a Primo Nutmeg review. And it was clear, stark contrast with those two endorsements. Like, wait, why is one getting like just thrown to the side and the other one just being used very openly? And I also noticed some other things about the Mike Gravel Twitter account. Like, it seemed like, for some reason, the kids were still using it. And I was really confused. I'm like, the campaign's over. Shouldn't you, give it back to him? Like, I took a screenshot of, like, him quoting a Cynthia McKinney tweet and, like, saying, like, you can be a leftist without being an anti-Semite. And he was saying, like, all this stuff. And I'm like, guys, the campaign's done. You can stop now. Or at least convert this to the Mike Gravel Institute page that would go with the Gravel Institute that you guys are trying to set up. But then it turns out the thing about, back to this Howie Hawkins thing, Primo Nutmeg got in contact with Mike Gravel again. And it turns out Gravel had exactly zero knowledge of this. He never even met Howie Hawkins. And yet, these guys were touting like, oh, Mike Gravel, he has this deep respect for Howie Hawkins. Like, he's this huge, like, big guy that's like, they're like best buddies, and he wants you to help the Green Party campaign. Turns out, he had no clue who Howie Hawkins is. And this email was sent without his knowledge. But the thing is, if it was like signed the Gravel campaign, no, it was not signed the Gravel campaign or signed David Oakes or signed the Gravel teens. No, it was signed as Mike Gravel. These kids are using Mike Gravel for political purposes now. Like, running a campaign for him for president, that'd be one thing. It was all fun, haha, we had our laughs and we had our giggles. But the thing is, the campaign's done. You can go away now. Now the thing is, these kids, they clearly seem to know what they're talking about. But the thing is, we really need to make it known that these kids, they're using Gravel. They're using him. It's absurd and it's sad. This guy who has read the Pentagon Papers, who ran for president twice, is being used for these political purposes. It's terrible. We need to tell these teens, like, seriously, the game is over. Your campaign for president was one thing. I'm gonna start like a hashtag, and I'm gonna put it in like the title or something, like hashtag give Gravel back. This man should be able to use his Twitter account again and not have these teens just be like, no, I'm gonna use the Twitter to be like, promote Howie Hawkins and promote our stuff. Because it seems to be what they're doing now. Now that they have Gravel's they have Gravel's name now. It's pretty synonymous to the point where we know, like, when the Gravel guy, like, when the Gravel account is tweeting something, it's not Gravel. It hasn't been Gravel for a long time. Like, we need to bring Gravel back. My Gravel needs to get his account back. Or anything. Like, if they just converted the Twitter account to be Gravel Institute, I'd be fine. Or just call the account the Gravel Teens or whatever. But anyways, now on to more saddening news. The 2 House districts in North Carolina are both Republican now. Dan Bishop and Greg Murphy have won. I mean, there's not much else to say. I think it's very interesting. Like, if you watched my last episode, you would know that I thought that he was, like, McCready was gonna win. I honestly thought McCready would win. Guess I was wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'll continue to be wrong forever. Not on the substance, because I'm always right on the substance. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the news. Now let's move on to the smaller presidential candidate of the day, John Richard Myers. John Richard Myers is a paleoconservative running for the Life and Liberty Party presidential nomination. He's also running for the Constitution Party of Ohio's nomination and the American Independent Party's nomination. As you can see, he's a bit of an interesting presidential candidate, I guess. Now, I don't agree with him at all. Like, in fact, I very disagree with him. He's run for the American Independent Party nomination in the past, and he's also run for the Constitution Party nomination in the past. But he's part of that split-off faction that has chosen to not go with the National Constitution Party, but is instead running with just the state affiliates to try and get a bigger ballot line. But I mean, it's fair. He can run for whatever thing he wants to. I won't be voting for him, obviously. But I mean, to all those who might vote for him, you know, that's going to be good, because you'll have him somewhere. He'll at the very least be on the ballot in Arkansas, because, well, he'll be, like, that's the only one I think he is on the ballot on at the moment. And that's with the Life and Liberty Party. So, kudos on him getting his third party on a ballot line. But then again, it's like, I think Arkansas is like the easiest one to get a ballot line on, so not really much to know for. So anyways, now let us talk about the third presidential debate. The third debate took place on September 12th and consisted of 10 candidates, because it was a one-night debate, because, you know, only 10 candidates officially qualified. Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang, Cory Booker, Robert Francis O'Rourke, and Amy Klobuchar, and Julian Castro. Steyer, Gabbard, and Williamson met the donor threshold but didn't meet the polling threshold. Inslee also met the donor threshold but dropped out because he was not going to get anywhere close to getting the donor threshold. Out of all the candidates, the airtime that was received was Joe Biden got the most amount of airtime with 17.4 minutes. Warren got 16.5 minutes. Booker got 14.7 minutes. Sanders got 14.1 minutes. Harris got 13.7 minutes. Buttigieg got 11.4 minutes. Castro got 11 minutes. Klobuchar got 10.4 minutes. O'Rourke got 9.3 minutes. And Yang got 7.9 minutes. Now, each of the candidates talked obviously. They had to do something for like 3 hours. Like, I mean, does that add up to 3 hours? I mean, yeah, I guess they had ad breaks, but I mean, a 3-hour debate is weird. Now, of course, many people have also brought up the attention of like, oh, this is just a horse race. Why bother paying attention to it? It's fun, really. I mean, to be honest, that's pretty much the only reason I pay attention to the debates. Like, it's fun to have the sound bites. It's fun to do the haha, it's funny. It's fun to laugh at the stuff, and it's fun to pay attention because you get some political substance, but otherwise it's mostly just a show. And considering our politics is kind of theatrics, yeah, I don't mind it being a show if it's an entertaining show. Like with the Trump 2016 campaign, he put on an interesting show because he's an entertainer. He knows how the show works. He makes an entertaining show, people like his character, and they move on. And that's what happened. His character hypothetically got popular and won the presidential election. It's very interesting. It's like really cool. But again, it's not like the debates of old. Like, let me go over briefly about the first technical presidential debates, which is the Stephen Douglas debates. Like, Stephen Douglas and Abraham Lincoln, when they debated for the Senate seat in Illinois. Yeah, that's considered the first presidential debate because both of them ended up becoming candidates for president. And the highly publicized debates were seen as a stepping point for how these guys would do their issue. They held like a good couple of debates, like I think at most 7. Like they held around like 7 or 8 debates. And here's how the debate would be structured. Candidate 1, let's just say for the sake of this one, it's Stephen Douglas because he was the incumbent and the first one he got to talk first. He would talk for 60 minutes, uninterrupted. Just no one would interrupt him. They wouldn't say something and then there'd be like a cheer and then he'd have to take a break, and Lincoln wouldn't rebut and just say like, no, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. He'd talk for 60 minutes, no interruptions. Then Lincoln would give a 90-minute response, which he would then transition into him talking just about the issues. He would spend the first 30 minutes of it or so kind of rebuting Stephen Douglas and then giving his own like stuff for the remaining 60 minutes. But then Douglas would get to rebut that for 30 minutes. So each candidate got to talk for 90 minutes, then they'd shake hands and then they'd leave. And for the most part, they usually focus on one issue per debate. So, yeah. Seems a bit more cordial and more articulate. It was more of an academic debate. That was the whole point. It was an academic debate. More of giving them their philosophy in a dignified and respectful manner. And there'd be someone writing them down so that they would actually be able to read the debate through and through. It'd be the equivalent of if me and Steve Poinkanen of Slow News Day got into a debate and just sat there and talked for hours and then posted it on his YouTube channel, and we just like somehow we didn't interrupt each other or anything. But I mean, that's obviously wouldn't happen, but I mean, it's like that's how it is in the old days. Even though the politicians were still nasty to each other, in a debate-like manner, they obviously knew we have to pull ourselves up and be cordial. We have to actually talk like politicians. We need to do that. That's just how it is. But I mean, to be fair, if you could choose that over having our greatest debate moments of all time, where it's like, Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy, or who am I? Why am I here? Or Bernie Sanders when he said, "Excuse me, I'm talking," or "Excuse me, I wrote," or when he's like, when he said, like, "I wrote the damn bill," like those moments, they're definitely gonna get people's attention. It's definitely that. They're definitely gonna get people's attention. Which is why many people actually speculated in this debate someone was going to say, like, a bad swear word. I think they mostly followed the rules. I think Robert said a swear word somewhere. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember it was not the word damn or something. I think it was something that he could have technically gotten in trouble for. No, scratch that, is just the hell. Never mind. I was thinking maybe he said something like, wouldn't it have been cool if someone actually, like, went as far as actually saying, like, it's fucked up on national TV? Like, a presidential candidate doing that. Like, Robert, he did do that thing on the last day of his, like, Senate campaign where he's like, "I'm so fucking proud of you guys." Like, I mean, he could have done something like that, and that probably would have gotten Robert up higher, but, I mean, for the most part, the debate was alright, but I guess many people say it was rather boring. A bit. I mean, we had one of our favorite candidates was bye-bye. Let me scratch that. 3 of the most interesting candidates, I guess, at least in debate format, are not here. Marianne with her, like, "Ooh, Bill de Blasio with his more just straightforward and hard-hitting, no-nonsense attitude. And Tulsi Gabbard to be ignored. I mean, those 3, we're definitely going to miss them. I'm going to miss them here. But I mean, I think it was kind of decent enough to get one debate, because now we kind of have a bit of a straightforward, we can just focus on one night rather than to waste 2 nights of our lives talking about this. I think at this point maybe they should do a kitty style debate. And many people are saying, like, I mean, the weird thing about this debate is that through this whole debate, they were always bringing up, like, the 10 final candidates. The 10 major candidates. The field has narrowed. We have narrowed it down to these big candidates. And I'm like, okay, first of all, 1, there are still 10 major Democrats running in the race. Bill de Blasio, Marianne Williamson, Tom Steyer, Tulsi Gabbard, they didn't drop out. Wayne Messam didn't leave. He's still in the race. You can pretend they're not in the race if you want, but that's not true. And 2, top 10? Top 10? You really think these are the top 10 candidates? You think I'm stupid enough to think these are the top 10 candidates? Because if you wanted a more accurate thing, let me give you a more accurate thing. The top 8 candidates. Plus Klobuchar and Castro. We skip number 9, but the top 8 plus Castro and Klobuchar. Like, seriously, you think people are stupid enough to just think, oh no, Tulsi Gabbard was the most researched candidate of both of the times she was on? Nah, she has no momentum. Maybe in your little Washington bubble, but otherwise, a common person, even if they barely know Tulsi Gabbard, knows that Tulsi has more momentum than Amy Klobuchar. Alright? Now, I guess with all that mostly out of the way, we could talk about the rankings. Because the thing is, like, my notes are really weird, and I would go through, like, a breakdown of the debate, but I don't really think I need to. You can get that from other guys. I kind of, like, here's some weird things that I wrote down. Let me see if I can find some weirder stuff that I wrote down. Julian starts with Spanish and platitudes. Let me see. Oh, I mentioned Bernie Sanders sounds hoarse. I mentioned how Warren transitions from her policies, like her stories to policies, and I noticed how, I wrote this down explicitly, and I think you can piece together what I'm talking about. Biden tries to pwn Bernie into Warren on healthcare. They get Warren, of course, to respond. They, of course, went to Warren to respond because Warren was the candidate they were trying to build up to be the candidate that would be the one to go against Biden. Like, every time they run these debates, they try to get a narrative down before you have a chance to even properly analyze a narrative. Like, with the last debates, they were trying to push a Bernie versus Warren narrative for one debate, then a Kamala and Biden narrative on the other night, and then they were also pushing a side narrative with Robert and Buttigieg as two major contenders that they're like, people want to see these two go at it. It's like, what? Nobody cares about if the man pretending to be Hispanic and the gay man are fighting each other. Ooh, so conviction. Let me see. Everybody was mentioning Bernie writing the damn bill. Like, it was like, like Klobuchar said, like, Bernie, he wrote the damn bill. Bernie was like, I wrote the damn bill. Everybody was saying, like, you wrote the damn bill, damn bill, damn bill. Everybody was just saying, damn bill, damn bill, damn bill. And I'm like, even when Bernie brought it up the first time around, I'm like, dude, you don't need to do that. Like, I mean, the reason why we liked the Bernie wrote the damn bill the first time around was because it was so unexpected. It was so he just, like, it was literally just like, you don't know that, Bernie, you don't know that. I do know that. Like, I don't even know if Bernie was rehearsing that or not, but it just seemed really weird. Why would you bring that up? It's weird. I wrote something that was probably not a good reason to write, so I'm going to skip that. Let me see. There's one point where they tried to get Yang to talk, but everybody kept talking over him. Like, literally everybody, it was like Mr. Yang, and then Warren and someone else was fighting. And then, right as Yang, like, talked for, like, 3 seconds, they're like, thank you, Mr. Yang. And he's like, wait, what? I'm not finished. Booker deflected on a healthcare question to shit on Trump. And there's a huge race question that they were just like, we're going to go to the white Texan for the answer on this. Julian did an alright. So did Booker. They did alright on that question. And Nico was making this joke about, like, how the black, like, moderator looked similarly to Tulsi, like, a little bit, you know, white, like, the white shirt and stuff. And he's like, notice how she didn't tweet the entire night of the debate? Don't lie, Tulsi. We know you're there. A moderator asked Amy's record, and Amy was like, nah, you tripping, dog. Biden keeps stumbling during the debate. Like, he kept stumbling during the debate, like, record player. It was weird. He was really stumbling a lot. I don't get it. Like, there's a reason why Julian Castro... Oh, that Julian Castro moment. I actually really liked it. Some people in the media threw it as like Julian is... And even some people in the progressive media were like, you know, it's weird Julian did this because Julian, he knows he's got nothing else to lose. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought that was a really good moment. And he was like, Biden, are you forgetting things already? You mentioned this 2 seconds ago. And I'm like, oh boy, Julian, you're doing well. Okay, so Amy calls out Bitch McConnell. Corey emotes on a question about guns, and then they're like, but Corey, you didn't answer the question. And then he dodged again. They do alright with, there's one weird part where they make a question about tariffs, and then Pete Buttigieg says it's not about tariffs. Kamala says no to protectionism, bye-bye Midwestern vote. And then Kamala says this weird Wizard of Oz joke. I think I'm going to just find that and play that because, like, I feel it really reeks of Pokemon Go to the Polls.
Donald Trump in office on trade policy, he reminds me of that guy in The Wizard of Oz. When you pull back the curtain, it's a really small dude.
First of all, everyone there clapping is clearly no Wizard of Oz fan because, one, it's the wizard. It's Oz. The man you're referring to is the Wizard of Oz. Second, it's not that he was a small dude, it's that he was a normal guy. Stupid idiot. I mean, do you not know basic Wizard of Oz lore? The fact is, like, everyone was expecting the Wizard of Oz to be like, oh, he's this big, strong wizard. And it's just some normal dude. That's the joke. That's the irony. That's the point. Not, oh, he's a really tiny man. What? Kamala, you don't know anything about the Wizard of Oz. Whatever. I mean, I guess you don't. I guess you don't have time to watch The Wizard of Oz when you're jailing people. It's time consuming. There was a stupid question about, like, the Hispanic host that's like, Bernie, why are you Maduro? It's like, well, I mean, first of all, he's not Hispanic. Second of all, Democratic Socialist, Social Democrat, not Maduro. Like, I mean, and Bernie was just like, well, I mean, I'm not Maduro. That's obvious. There's one point where I mentioned Castro sucked the military-industrial complex's dick. There's one note that is kind of like that I'm not revealing to the public, probably. I don't know why, but anyways. Like, and in the final statement where everyone was kind of going platitude-y, Bernie actually went on policy. So anyways, let's just move on to the big thing, rankings of the candidates. Now I have written them in categories, but many people have been saying, like, oh, so I want them in a specific number order. And I'm like, okay, I guess that's fair. So I'm going to do them in a number order. I will rank the candidates from worst to best and just see how it is. I'll actually just preface it with this. Honestly, this debate wasn't good enough for there to be like a real standout winner or a real terrible loser. They just kind of were... It just so happened to fall along the lines of losing and not losing. So, the hypothetical biggest loser of the night, I would have to say, is Joe Biden. Now, the thing is, I actually was beginning to think that this would be the first time where Joe Biden doesn't make the loser list. Because I was thinking he might actually be doing well. Now, I didn't personally think that, I thought that he was going to do well. He seemed like he was bringing a different attitude to the debate. He was wrong, but he was being more adversarial. He was being, more of a debater. Like he was actually going after some of his opponents. And not being cordial, but then he kind of just flopped back into being Joe Biden, so he just stumbled a lot. He was, whenever they said, time's up, there was one time where he tried to go on for, an hour more, but then he didn't even say much during his hour more. He just kind of rambled more. I rank your candidates, if you not only have the time, but you also use that time effectively. Okay. So the person who's right above him, number 9, Amy Klobuchar. Now, I think Amy Klobuchar did decent, I guess. But it just so happens that her decentness, I mean, again, it wasn't even really decent. It was more of, she just did a better job than Joe. And in all seriousness, I don't think that really transitions well to Joe. Or to Amy. It doesn't really translate to Amy because she just kind of fades in the background. The last times I had her in there, she really didn't do well. But the thing is, most of the other guys, they at least tried to do something that brought themselves to the table. But otherwise, Amy just had a lot more she was in the field of, being just there, and then having a moment that was just terrible. And I think it was mostly Amy's just, I'm gonna be the center of America, and her, just ignoring the whole issue of, hey, but in this criminal justice reform, you were actually not that good in this regard. And she's like, no, you're wrong. Number 8, I'd have to say, is Pete Buttigieg. Now, Pete Buttigieg, I really didn't see him do anything that impactful. But he didn't really do anything that made me think, oh, Pete just had a terrible night. Now, I think many people did see something of that because he also is kind of in this field for other people. But otherwise, I didn't really see Pete do anything bad because there were even some moments where Pete did do things that were oh, he actually did something that was good. He talked about a progressive foreign policy to an extent. But yeah, otherwise he didn't really do much. Number 7 is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, I feel, also did that. She tried to have more breakout moments, but otherwise didn't really have any inherently good moments. She just kind of seemed there, especially considering they're trying to, again, hype up Kamala. Everybody kind of wants to hype up Kamala because of their first debate where she took down Joe Biden, but she hasn't really recovered since. Her debate tactics, it seems she's desperately trying to repeat that, but she's never really doing anything that could try that is actually even remotely impactful to the debate. She just kind of now offers just mostly platitudes to an extent. Number 6 is Robert O'Rourke. Now, Robert, he kind of did well on the gun control law. He did seem to do really well on gun control. Not many people seem to point out the fact that, oh, now they finally have a soundbite of a Democrat saying, I'm going to take your guns. Yeah, it's fine, I guess. Nobody really cares. Robert mostly had okay moments, but it was kind of that moment, especially considering he was from El Paso, Texas, which was kind of where they were doing this. I don't think they weren't doing it in El Paso, but, they were close to El Paso, so he kind of had that going for him, this is really impactful to him, so he actually had human emotions, a thing Robert doesn't do that much. Okay, so number 5 would be Cory Booker. Cory Booker, much like the last debate, was doing decent. I felt in the other debates that he did decent, but he mostly kind of just fell back into just was there category. But in this one, I think he was actually doing decent, doing well. And I think one part that kind of, he does okay on actual policies, school segregation, and at one point he even says, I am with Bernie on Medicare for all, so that kind of shows, he does do that. He showed emotion during the gun control stuff, again, while I showed that he was dodging, and I think I put it in the notes here, but I mentioned how, he uses the Spanishness for the debate's one good joke. The debate actually had a funny joke. I actually laughed during one of the jokes during the debate because Most of the other candidates, when they told a joke, I was like, get it, it's funny. Oh, wait, no. That wasn't Kamala's. Damn it. Damn it. I completely missed the guard on that Kamala Harris thing. Pause. Pause. I mean, that wasn't Kamala Harris's Pokemon Go to the Polls moment. Kamala's Pokemon Go to the Polls moment was something completely different. It was her when she was saying, yes, we can, to Joe Biden. So anyways, back to Cory Booker. He told the only funny joke in the debate. He said, like, it was using the whole thing, everybody went like, let me talk Spanish. He's like, no, let me give the Spanish translation. No. And I'm like, I actually was starting to laugh. And one thing is that they were talking about this stupid question, like, Cory, in order to save the environment, should everybody become a vegan? And it's like, what? 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 And he actually deflected that question to an issue. Homeless veterans. He deflected it to an actual issue. Hooray! And that's a good thing. Like, if you're going to deflect a question, deflect it to something more important. Like, let's say I was doing a softball interview and they're like, so, are you gay? I'd be like, well, first of all, we need to talk about freaking climate change. Do that. He probably should have deflected it. I would have given him bonus points. He would have probably been like the next number if he deflected to talking about the explicit, like, thing. Like, if he explicitly said, like, moving on from one climate change thing to another climate change thing, he probably would have been better. But otherwise, he did fine. Number 4 is Julian Castro. Because Julian Castro actually was, again, mostly talking about policy to an extent. He did do some bad things, military-industrial complex, like, you can't call Maduro a dictator. The thing is, I can call Maduro a dictator. But he did have another part where, again, I mentioned, like he did, now that I think about it, there are some people I think I can actually, like, switch and talk about, like, technically, Kamala and Pete, they're so close, and, like, they could be interchangeable, really. And I guess Julian and Cory, they could be interchangeable, too. But, I mean, he talks about dictators in his question on trade. It's really weird. Some things he did, but I think he did really well on actual going after issues. Like when he goes after Joe Biden, that's a moment that's really good. And I think it'll do really well for him. Number 3, Andrew Yang. Yang, he did one thing that is unexpected for Andrew Yang. He talked about something else other than UPI. UBI. I think I said UPI. But anyways, he actually focused on other issues. That's amazing. You never hear him talk about other issues. I mean, again, it's kind of a... I'm exaggerating a bit, but yeah, he did talk about... They did allow him to talk about other issues, and he didn't tie every single issue to UBI. He actually allowed other issues to be discussed. They actually allow him to move on in other issues. And his surprise was lackluster, really. Like, his lackluster surprise was like, I thought he was going to say something, like, really big or something. Like, maybe he was going to, I don't know, something else than that. Maybe he would have dropped out. Like, wouldn't it be cool to see Canada drop out on the stage? Like, what do they do? Do they kick him off? Do they let him stay on? But, I mean, what do they do? But, I mean, again, it's very likely that we're going to be seeing Yang more in the future. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to keep number 2 and number 1 kind of the same as well, because, again, these two can be really interchangeable to an extent. Although I'd say probably number 1 slightly beats number 2. Elizabeth Warren is number 2, and Bernie Sanders is number 1. Now, again, you might say, oh, duh, of course you're going to put those two on the top. Let me tell you why I put those two on the top. They stayed on track. They talked about the issues. They stayed focused. And you could tell Bernie was clearly sick of it. And you could tell he was kind of secretly, like, showing that he was sick and tired of this stupid horse race debate. He was raising his hand like a million times whenever he would need to talk, but then you could see it. He would like just, it wasn't even like a normal like, He was like, And I mean, Warren, she did fine, but she just kind of got there by default to an extent. If Yang had more time to talk, he'd probably be above Warren to an extent. And, like, again, Bernie, he kind of actually got focused more on the issues. He focused, like, when you focus on the issues, that's good. And I really think that it needs to be said, like, anybody focusing on the issues is automatically better than anyone else. And Bernie was hoarse during the debate because he's had to go through all this a million times in the past. Much like I'm getting hoarse right now, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here. So yeah, that's pretty much all it is to say. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when the future video mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.